All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thoughtful Entrepreneur. I am your host, Jen Amos. And today I am here with the CEO and founder of Essentialise Functional Life Coaching, Lee Chambers. Lee, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you today, Jen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, for people that are learning about you for the first time, Lee, why don't you share just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yep, so I live in the north of England. I grew up here. I was that curious and disruptive child, went all the way through to university here and set up my first business after being made redundant in the credit crunch in 2008. And that has led me on an interesting journey, which has included losing the ability to walk through illness. I've had to recover from that. And I've recently sold my original company after setting up a new one and realizing that actually I had a real passion for helping people. And now with Essentialise, I help both entrepreneurs and small business owners to get really clear on the lives that they want to create and design around growing their company, but also now going into companies as well and assisting with employee well-being and helping get your employees also leading themselves first.
Yeah, I feel like you brushed a little bit about of your backstory before we got into where you're at today. So you're telling me you weren't able to walk at one point in your life?
Yeah, so in 2014, I became ill. My immune system attacked my joints.
Wow.
So both my knees were locked in place. My shoulder was up by my ear. My wrist was the size of a football. And to be honest, it just happened in the course of 5 days. So I didn't really have time to process it. I was in shock. But amazingly, I was still managing to run my original video game business from my hospital bed with one hand, even though I couldn't feed myself properly and I couldn't go in the shower or go to the toilet myself, which shows just how lucky I was to have a digital business at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think given current events, everyone wants to have a digital business nowadays. And it's just, I think to me, the digital business is the ultimate equalizer for anyone. Like anyone, any walk of life can really step into the digital space if they really want to and build a mobile business or, and it's not even just for like mobility, but yeah, if you're immobile as you were, Lee. And so thank you for touching a little bit about that. Because I was just like, oh, he just kind of brushed over it. Like I really kind of wanted to tap into that for a little bit. Do you have some maybe life lessons from that time in your life that you feel is important to share with people who may have been through a similar experience or haven't and should maybe appreciate the fact that they are able to fully function easily?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing I learned from a business perspective is I had financial success. I was in a great place, but really, your physical and your mental health are going to be the biggest asset that you ever have. And really, I didn't align and understand that until all of a sudden my health was taken away from me. And it didn't matter about the lovely house that I had and the lovely car and vehicles that I had because I couldn't even get into them. And it was a real equalizer and something that alchemized me to realize that ultimately, your business is always going to be that vehicle to the life that you want. But make sure that you've got the health to enjoy the life while you're growing your business to make an impact in the world, but also to take you on the journey of life that you want to go on. And it's actually vital that we ensure that we stay attuned to that, because in the hustle of entrepreneurialism and the hustle of business, sometimes that can feel like noise in the background that you're ignoring. But in all truth, business is integrated into your life and you got to make it work for you.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful, Lee. I heard a quote from some time ago that said, some people spend their whole life trying to generate wealth only to turn back and use that wealth to get back their health.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so powerful how you learn that very early on and you carry that in what you're doing today. So thank you for sharing that. I think your story is very inspirational.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, why don't we get into Essentialized Functional Life Coaching, Lee? And you touched a little bit about it at the beginning. Talk to us about how do you work with your clients? If someone were to come to you today, what would you be doing with them? What process would you be taking them through?
Yeah, so when my clients come in, and the majority of my clients are entrepreneurs and small business owners, so usually they're in that second stage growth phase, starting to get employees on board. really understanding where they bring a lot of value in their business and really looking to amplify that. And I then take them through a process where we actually strip it back for a second. So they'll come to me, and the first module that we work on in my program is all about purpose, direction, and mission. So we actually peel them back a little bit and say, look, what do you want to achieve? And what really resonates with you from these things you've done in the past when you reflect, and where you actually want to go? What do you want your legacy to be? And we start to actually really anchor into where they want to go, because sometimes the business is driving you, and you know, you've got to make sure you've got hold of that steering wheel and you know which highway you're going on, because it's your journey. And then after we've got that real clarity of direction, we actually then do a health coaching module. So we look at small ways we can compound positively our sleep, our nutrition, and our movement. Because ultimately, as an entrepreneur, you need the energy to push your business forward. It's absolutely vital. You want to be the one who's in command of the vehicle. You don't want to be sleepy. You don't want to, be hungry or be struggling because
right.
you're up and down. And you need to ensure that you're actually looking after this body, because this is your business. And you can, by compounding interest in a bank account, you can compound your health upwards or downwards, depending on if you look after yourself. So we really get them to make some small changes. Then we move into the third module where we kind of look at the psychology, like what habits might be stopping you from growing your business and growing yourself. What mindset is holding you back? Again, starting to look, abundance, growth. This is something that you can really anchor into. How you see the world, it affects how you interact. It affects how you interact in a business sense. If you actually want to get people, all your stakeholders, to be on side, moving with your values in your direction, it actually requires you to kind of understand how human beings work, because ultimately they're buying from you, a person behind the business. So it's really getting an anchor into the fact that you have a massive amount to control. Your business is going to be a reflection of you and how you go out and represent yourself in the world. And then after looking at that purpose, at the health and at the psychology, we then build a plan so that they can get to the place where they want to be, look out to the future and create that statue of the business owner, the man, the woman they want to become, and give them the sledgehammer so they can smash it into pieces by bringing it back down into an actionable framework where they have a set of steps to take over the next 10 years. And beautifully, when you've got it down, it becomes almost like a list of things that we can do, and it feels actionable, it feels achievable, and we really, really underestimate what we can actually do in 10 years.
Yeah. Wow. I just want to hear you just talk and talk and talk, Lee. I really, I think the way that you treat your clients is so holistic, because first of all, yeah, I think for most people, especially in my background, going from an employee to the self-employed mindset, I wanted to have a sense, I left my job because I wanted to have a sense of purpose, but that could get lost along the way when you're just trying to fulfill the next, trying to know where your next paycheck is going to come from next month. And I love how you also, incorporate the purpose. And once you help them find that purpose, you also incorporate the health aspect of it. And this goes back to your original story as from your first business and where you were at. And so I just think it's so powerful to incorporate that. I don't hear a lot of life coaches talking about that aspect of people's life. And then really getting into that psychology of, okay, so we know why you want to do what you want to do. We know that you're going to put your body, you're going to take care of yourself because your body, your health is your wealth. And then with that, we're going to make sure you have the right mindset. And then you'll have the plan to grow a successful business. It just sounds so holistic to me, and I could only imagine. Can you give me maybe a couple of examples, maybe testimonials of clients who have benefited from your program?
Yeah, so I've got a few clients who really made like such shifts. It literally brought me to tears. So I worked with a director of an IT company. He had 12 staff, and it kind of grown without a lot of direction. Mm-hmm. And actually, in the purpose section, he realized that it wasn't the business for him. He migrated to Australia and set up a wildlife retreat.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's just like, it, it was amazing, because what happened is he started to get a feeling in the purpose module that it isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
And in the health section, he realized that, he'd not been looking after himself. But suddenly, having that purpose, going through the health section, it actually gave him the energy, because he felt like he couldn't move because he was just so drained from everyday life. Give him the energy. And then all of a sudden, we went through the psychology section. He removed those beliefs that he couldn't go and expand and explore. He felt like he was trapped. He felt like he had to stay here and continue to be the person who he was with his company. And he sold it, moved to Australia, and now is living a life of abundance, doing something that resonates with him. I still speak with him today. He says that he wakes up every morning excited to go and do the work that he's doing there. And it's a little bit sad that he now lives on the other side of the world, so I can't actually physically see him. But that contact is so powerful. And a similar case, not as profound as in moving halfway across the world, but I worked with a client recently, and she felt that she'd gone self-employed from an employed position, set up her own company, and taken a client from her employed days with her. So that was a significant, contract she took. But she started to hate being self-employed, because she'd taken the thing that annoyed her most from employment through to self-employment. And really, she wanted security. She felt like it'd be secure keeping this big client. And I had a few sessions with her and just managed to expand her to realize that actually she started to hate it so much, she thought she wanted to set up something completely different. Actually, what she wanted and needed to do was to get rid of that client and get clients she actually wanted to work with. And it was a really simple shift, but a few sessions in, it just clicked with her. This client is the reason why I don't like my own business. So why do I have this client?
Right.
Kick the client into touch. And now she's realized that actually she's almost got everything in life that she wants, but she couldn't see it because she was so frustrated with this client. It clouded all the good things in her life.
Wow, that is so powerful. It sounds that when people go through your program, they go through this transformative experience and they really find their purpose. They find all the things you mentioned: purpose, health, psychology, and therefore a plan. I want to go back to even just the first part of that, purpose. Why do you think that most entrepreneurs don't know what their purpose is from the beginning? Is it something that you really need help? You really need someone to help you find that? Or isn't it something that you could just trust your gut?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, intuition is powerful. I think the thing with purpose is we don't always go into business with that in mind. Now, a lot of us have very purposeful businesses and businesses that are making a difference. The thing with purpose is you don't really just go out and find it, so to speak. You chisel it over time. And by chiseling it over time, you actually start to realize what you truly want to do. And some business owners start with that understanding: my purpose, my strengths, where I can bring value, and what I can monetize. And if you start your business right in the middle of those four circles, then you're pretty much there already. But as soon as the world starts to shift, and so often what I find with my business owners that I work with, they're in that second growth phase. So all of a sudden, the money's flooding in, they are expanding at speed, and that original purpose starts to get a bit muddied in the water. Suddenly there's a lot of stakeholders involved in decisions, a lot of people pulling with their values and their purpose away from the purpose of the entrepreneur, really at the center of it. And it takes a really strong, big character to ensure that that purpose stays clear. And if you're not a big person developed, as someone who recognizes themselves as this bastion of this business, then all of a sudden these influences, they literally become like a prawn in the soup. And what it does is it taints your business. And suddenly other influences are controlling that. And really, my big job is to get them so clear on that purpose that they can stand there with their 50 employees and make their 50 employees feel that that purpose is worth working for.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really where it comes into its own, because you need to have that purpose. Many entrepreneurs have that element of purpose because you have to be purposeful to go out and build a business. Otherwise, you just sit there on the sofa eating some chips, and it's like, but you need to utilize that purposefulness in the right way, because in my initial business, my purposefulness came from frustration, from desperation, from being made redundant, from being told I was a young Black entrepreneur and I wasn't going to make it. And that fueled me to set up a business which went to 6 figures, which went to 7 figures, with just me and a bunch of automations. And ultimately, that was fueled from frustration, made me quite narrow visioned. And I've learned from that and now help other entrepreneurs, because I lost my purpose, because I was so fueled. And sometimes we hustle beyond our purpose. Sometimes we grow beyond our purpose, but actually you want that purpose to be right at the forefront of your business when it grows, so that even when it's 100, 200, 5,000 employees, billions of pounds of turnover, still your purpose.
That's so powerful. So for our listeners, if you are interested in getting a hold of Lee, he has a website, leechambers.org. I'm curious, how do people end up finding you? Is it because of your website? Is it maybe client referrals? How do people normally find you to hire you for your services?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have a lot of clients because I really go intensive with people, and that's something.
It sounds like it.
Big signature thing of mine. But to be honest, the majority of my work comes from referrals. I do have a waiting list, and given that I'm quite active on socials, especially LinkedIn, I'm starting to get, leads from a lot of different places. And if you want to, ultimately join that list, I might even bump you up, especially if you're a thoughtful entrepreneur, because ultimately I really like working with thoughtful entrepreneurs, because I'm a thoughtful entrepreneur myself.
I love it, Lee. Well, hey, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I want to close out just by asking you one more question. Is there any other important information or advice or wisdom you want to share with your fellow business owners and entrepreneurs that are listening to The Thoughtful Entrepreneur?
Yeah, I'd definitely say make sure you find out exactly where your value is, because that is so important for you to grow and scale, and really crystallize that value, make it evergreen. And then, more importantly, bring other people's strengths and their values and gifts around that, and it amplifies it even more.
Beautiful. Well, there you have it, listeners. That was Lee Chambers, the CEO and founder of Essentialise Functional Life Coaching. You can learn more about him at leechambers.org. Lee, thank you again for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks, Jen.